everybody can connect the dots. You know who the three are coming up. In some order, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson. So who is it at number three?
Oh, I almost want to cry, but I can't believe it. Yep. Oh, Aaron Rodgers. I think you're the greatest quarterback of all time, but in 2020, you're number three.
How is
And,
that?
oh, man. Hurts me to say it, man. Hurts me
And
to say it.
and Chris, he's the only one of these quarterbacks in the top five who dropped. How'd this happen?
What? What an asshole I am. How do I
Yeah,
do that?
bad
You
guy.
know?
Yeah.
I know. What a bad
From
guy.
one to three.
Uh,
From one to
yeah.
three. Why?
And I will say, unequivocally, this is the first time I think since 2010 that I'm going into a season where I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in football. I don't. And to me, again, we'll get into some of the special, but why did he fall to three? All right, well, there's two guys in front of him who are really special and in the primes of their career. Rodgers, he's on that part where it's starting to just go downhill. Still
Hmm.
special, but like just to get into why I dropped him down two spots. Okay, one, do I think skills are declining a little bit? Yes. Like, did I notice his 104-mile-per-hour fastball dropped to 102 this year? Yes. Doesn't matter. Still a special arm. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's still one of the best arms in the game. Okay, but I did notice it. His escapability, I think, was a little less than average this year, or not less than him, what we normally see from him. His ability to bounce around and escape that way, and then just his pure actual running. I thought there was a few runs this year where I went, ooh, Rodgers 2 years ago turns the corner, and that's a 20-yard gain. Rodgers this year, he got tripped up, and he stumbled and fell and got a 1-yard gain. So I noticed that, but here's probably my biggest thing with Rodgers, okay, is just I think he's too careful with the football. I think that's the biggest reason or the biggest thing about his game that I don't like right now. And, you remember we saw that little spat between him and LaFleur early in the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what it was about. LaFleur said, man, there was a guy open on a 20-yard in cut. He was open. Why didn't you throw it to him?
Hmm.
And I think Rodgers, because of one, he had to play like that for a while in Green Bay, and it's kind of the style he's used to. Two, yeah, I think he's a little careful in times where I want to go, wait, within the normal rhythm of the 5-step, take a hitch and throw to number one, that guy was open. Yeah, the window was tight, but you're freaking Aaron Rodgers. Throw it in there. And I saw times where, it's a little too tight. I'm going to move around, try to make something happen, and then nothing happens, or then he has to throw it away. And to me, that's just little things. Again, this is Aaron Rodgers. We're being picky about all these guys in the top five. They're
Sure.
special.
Yeah.
But those are just some of the negatives to Rodgers, and we'll talk about the positives here in a second after you want to ask me a few questions.
Yeah, and the way you were just explaining him that he's a little too careful. I remember we were talking about one or two quarterbacks in the last month or so, and you really wanted them to be more bold down the field. They're like, yeah, I know the numbers are decent, but I'd rather they took a dip and he took more chances. And I've got some numbers here circled, and one is 51-6. That's his touchdown to interception ratio the last 2 years. Somebody could say that's the best thing he's done, the best part of his
Yes,
game the last 2 years. Maybe you're pointing out that he'd be better off, or the team would be better off, if it wasn't 51-6.
I am. I'm definitely saying that. And again, this is the greatest gunslinger we've seen in the history of the sport who takes care of the football. That's what's amazing about Aaron Rodgers and still does that. And, listen, he'll win you a lot of games and he really doesn't lose you any games because of that, too. Certainly. And it's the greatest touchdown to interception ratio in the history of the NFL. And it's not even
Right,
close to who's number two.
right.
I mean, it's so all those things you're saying, very true, no doubt about it. But I think in an offense that lacks big time explosive playmakers, he's got to be that guy to do it. And I think he's at a point in time where, for a lot of years, yeah, okay, hey, if that little hole like I was talking about was open and he didn't want to fire it in there and take a chance, he was so talented that he could dance around and scramble and still buy 4 more seconds. And then he made an unbelievable throw. And you were like, well, it didn't matter that he passed that guy up. He actually got something better. That's unreal. But I think at this point of his career, I think he's rolling the dice on those scenarios at this point now, to where it's not always going to come out in the other end and we're going to go, whoa, he got something better.
Hmm.
It could be, oh, no, you got something worse. You should have took that 10-yard completion. It was there, and you didn't want to do it. And to me, yeah, I just think there's some plays when you go back and watch just in the normal rhythm of the offense where I just wish he would stick with what he was taught and not hold the ball and look for a safer type throw. Now, listen, Paul, in a lot of ways, he had a play like this for a long time, and it's hard to break those kind of things. They couldn't do anything on offense for years. They weren't schematically, creative. They didn't always have great talent. So it was on Rodgers just to make it happen. And because of that, he knew he couldn't throw balls into a crowd and have it pop up in the air and interception, or they couldn't win games. But he also knew he was talented to pass up some of those things and make something else happen. And I just don't know if that's the case anymore. So, hey, guy's still amazing. I'm certainly not trying to say anything other than that.
Well, understandable, yeah. I'm going to take the two main points that I heard you come back to, the two themes. Number one, doesn't make plays outside the pocket with his legs as well as he used to. One of the reasons he slipped here. Number two, plays a little bit too conservative. Let's take those two things, apply them to their two biggest failures last year, because there weren't many. They were 13-3. They did win a playoff game. They failed against the best team in the NFC twice, San Francisco 49ers. How much did what you saw as conservative decision making and a lack of ability to make plays with his legs like he used to, how much did that have to do with those two big failures?
Yeah, not a lot. They were so overmatched in some of those games, it didn't really, boil to the surface in that game where I went, Rodgers, missed a few opportunities. You just can't miss them against a team like San Francisco. There was, really in the first game on the Monday Night Football game, the team let him down early. There was some drop passes and some things like that where, it might have gave them a chance to be a little bit more competitive. The second time around, the offense needed to be more aggressive and creative. There wasn't anything there to be had. I didn't come away from that playoff game, the NFC Championship, going, if Rodgers just would have hit these few throws early, the game would have been different. No, they were completely outmatched. Again, this is a team that was 13-3 and in the Super Bowl conversation because of number 12 at quarterback. They were not a 13-3 football team. They were a 10-6 football team, in my opinion. But they went 13-3 because they have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play on their team, and certainly one of the best in the game right now. And that's where I don't want to get it mixed up. The guy is still awesome. And he's still arguably the most gifted thrower, passer in the game. I mean, there's no offense, there's no play. Nothing exists other than maybe the Lamar Jackson offense that Aaron Rodgers couldn't run. And he can make every throw off of every platform to a degree of like there's only a few people in the history of the league that can do it to what he does.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to play this but game because I'm from the Midwest. I know how Packers fans feel. On one hand, it's a huge compliment that at his age, he's still in the top three quarterbacks in the game. But the fact that he dropped two, I mean, you talked about the fact that they won 13 games. They won the division. He was over 60% again, 26 touchdowns, 4 picks. I still have the vision of the playoff game against Seattle. Those perfect deep passes.
Perfect.
Not good, perfect, highly difficult passes. So there is a lot of room to push back and say, okay, it's nice he's third, but this guy shouldn't have dropped 2 spots.
Well, yeah, I hear you. You're fine to push me back, and you're not going to make me mad pushing back, on my favorite quarterback
on Aaron
ever.
Rodgers, right? Yeah,
he's my favorite. I mean, I don't try to make any bones about it.
Right, and so how and that's another just curious question. How difficult is it for you just as a fan? I mean, outside of Phil Simms, this is your favorite quarterback of all time. How hard is it to be objective with him for you?
Yeah, very hard. I had to have a lot of talks in my brain as I was going through this and doing this and, going back and forth. And it just, I love him, but I try not to let that influence, what I'm seeing on the field. And again, special. Yes, he fell 2 spots. But as we know, the two guys we're about to talk about are damn special too. But don't get it, like Paul, what you said, some of those throws in the Seahawks game. I mean,
Oh
we're still
man.
talking about one of the best, outside the number throwers in the game. Fades, back shoulders, out routes. Then you get into the deep post and just the go routes. They're still off the charts good. So you're right, and you certainly could argue it. I'm not trying to deny that. I just think that, the two guys in front of him right now are more in their prime and going this way, and Rodgers is kind of on that plateau / I'm going down the other way. And here's the other big question I'll get, because I think we need to address this. I know people last year were going, well, why did you have Rodgers 1 and Mahomes 2 last year? Mahomes was 50 touchdown passes that year and the MVP of the league. I'll tell you why. Because, yes, even though last year Mahomes might have had greater playmaking ability and highlight reel type of plays, I still thought there was some plays left on the field. And even though he had the advantage on Rodgers in the playmaking department last year, and I'm talking about the 2018 season, it wasn't enough to overcome, because Rodgers is still making a lot of plays, not enough to overcome what I thought was Rodgers' clear advantage in experience at that time. And that's why last year in my 2019 rankings, I went Rodgers 1, Mahomes 2, because I'm a believer that if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, he wouldn't have been fooled in the first half by some of the things the Patriots did to him, and he would have tore them up. He would Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. And it took Mahomes and Andy Reid a little time to figure out what was being done to them on the offensive side of the ball, to where, at that point in time, I don't think you could have tricked Rodgers with that game plan. And I think he would have exposed it, and Belichick would have been like, all right, he's on to us. We got to readjust. I mean, it was till late in the third quarter until Kansas City really figured out what was going on, and Mahomes was figuring out what coverage was going on. So that's to answer that question. I've seen that out there before too.
So what will it take from him? What do you have to see? Because I know how much you like Deshaun Watson at 4, Lamar Jackson at 5, Carson Wentz at 6, and those guys are on their way up. Maybe Aaron isn't. How likely is it that he hangs on to that 3 spot as opposed to fall behind some of those other talented young quarterbacks?
I don't think it's going to be easy to overtake them for those guys. I don't. Again, it's like I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say Rodgers is falling off the planet here. I still think it's still really high-level football. And, yeah, those guys are talented. But, again, when you're just talking about a thrower, a passer, whatever it is, Rodgers is still as good as anybody in the game. He is. I mean, he's got every club in the bag, and within every club, he's got a few different ways in which he can hit each club. He can get the pitching wedge out and dribble it on the green and let it roll, or he could get the pitching wedge out and hit it 70 feet in the air like Phil Mickelson and then drop it right next to the hole too. He's got it all for every club. So listen, I'm not sitting here thinking like, oh, Lamar and Wentz are definitely going to pass him up next year. No, I think you're going to have a highly, highly motivated Aaron Rodgers for the 2020 season. Maybe this will give him the extra nudge that he needed now to really piss him off and get him motivated for 2020.
You guys are no longer friends. Yeah.
No, he's done with me after this.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.